Happy Friday. Hello. We're talking about things that don't interest you. Yes, that's what we're talking about. So, I've covered a few already. Check my channel out if you haven't seen those. We talked about sports and we talked about politics. Now it's time to talk about the next subject, which Kelly says race. Anything divisional like that. So, we're talking about race, okay? Whether you're racing in a marathon or you're just racing your friends, we're talking about race today. Not that kind of race, of course. Not that kind of race. Come on now. We're talking about skin color. That's pretty much all it is. Race. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me why people are, racist and have these prejudice against people for whatever reason. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just kind of bizarre. Because there are these stereotypes, which I understand where stereotypes originate from. There are certainly some truth to certain stereotypes, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Okay, remember that. I think it's perceived as such if something is true. That's not necessarily the case. So with race, it is very true that there is a lot of segregation when it comes to race. When you're the minority, for example, it's very hard to succeed with certain ventures because then you feel as though other people are out to do you harm and, essentially be rude and hateful and mean to you just based on your skin color. That doesn't make any sense. And it's the same thing with like being transphobic, we call it gay-phobic. I don't know what you would call it. Homophobic. There you go. That is the term. Or anything like that. Again, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Like, why would you get upset at someone because they have a different skin color than you? Or because they like men or they like women and they are the same sex? Why does that impact you in any way? The only way it's going to impact someone is if, let's say, for example, someone is being, abused or even beaten by someone who is a certain race, then they have an idea in their mind that all people of that race are that way, and that's not the case. Ultimately, what determines how someone is how they were raised. So it is very, very true that, certain people have it easier than other people, is what it seems. So, for white people, certain things may seem easier than, for example, black people. That's just how it tends to be because of how white people and black people are perceived. And certain people may not be able to live in certain good conditions. And they may not be able to get the proper jobs that they want, that they can succeed. And they may be poor and not have much money. And certain people were raised in an environment that isn't necessarily the healthiest for them. That does not apply to everyone who is of that race. It's just saying that people like that, doesn't matter if you're black or you're white or you're Hispanic, you're Asian, whatever else, it doesn't matter. If you're raised in those conditions, if you're around that, then it's a result of how you were raised, how you were grown, how you grew up. You can always change that. And here's something else that I don't understand. It's if people were raised a certain way even, later in life they'll say, oh, well, I had a rough childhood, this and that. That's why I'm acting this way. That is no excuse for those actions. If someone is acting as if they can't control their emotions, they have no sort of way of dealing with stress and anxiety. Oh, that's because I was, abused by this and that person when I was a kid. Well, guess what? That's in the past. Okay? You have the right and you have the choice to not let that affect you anymore. But the thing is, these people, they use that as an excuse to validate how they're acting now, and there is no reason for that. Perfect example with me, for example. It's I was not, raised in the best sort of condition here. Now we're off on a different topic, but it kind of relates to how someone was raised, okay? The whole segregation with race and such. But because I wasn't raised in a proper condition, I grew up very untrusting of people, paranoid, had these delusions. I was very emotionally unstable. If I get into a rage, if I get upset and angry, if I become withdrawn, if I become emotionally unstable and sad and depressed, am I going to sit here and say it's because of how I was treated in the past? I have no control over it. The first part of that is okay to say. I can say yes, I am acting this way because of how I was. But guess what? That is where it ends, because I have a choice now, right now, to change that. And if you're not willing to change it, if you're not making the changes, then you can't use that as an excuse. So for people who are segregated and they are, it is very interesting how there are certainly, I've seen it, certain targets for certain races. It's meant to make, the white person go out ahead. Every other race, it's a bit more further down. Or certain other races, such as, I'm sure you've heard, these things about, well, actually, it's not a conspiracy, it's, the Chinese pretty much control, like, the whole world when you really think about it, how they dictate what the United States does and this and that, and how you probably know about any of that if you're familiar with some of the issues with China and the United States and such. So there's censorship there. There's issues there which, Chinese are controlling. There's also plenty of repression of African American people, where they are not treated equally, where they do not get the same rights, even though the states and the laws say these are the rights you have equal to anyone else. But that's just not true. That's just not true. We know that it's not true. And it's very clear and it's very evident that it's not true. But here's also another issue that I have. I've seen things where people of the same race justify, a fellow, person of their race, justify their crimes because they think that the action taken against that person was racially driven. And that's another big issue, because yes, it is. Let's just say, and I forget how long ago this was. Like, there was a black man who, killed someone or something along those lines, and the cops, killed the black man who did that. And a lot of the African American people were really upset about this because they thought it was racially. I'm forgetting the term right now. Racially driven. There you go. When they're completely missing the point that this other person killed someone. It's like, come on, you can't justify their crimes in that way. So that's another issue that I have. Yes, perhaps things could have been taken differently, and perhaps if it was a white person, it would have been taken differently for sure. But that's no excuse for what this other person did. Let's see, there was another example I was thinking of as well. It's just that justification. It's just not. I'm trying to think of the other example that I had. There was another one that was really good. Kind of forgetting it now, but hopefully you understand that. Just this. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like some of these like false statistics of racial crimes and such, when the majority of crimes committed are among people of the same race. It tends to be. It's not white on black crime or black on white crime. It is usually black on black and white on white. The majority of the time. I'm not going to speak for, there are certainly plenty of racially driven, battles that happen that are very, very bad. But again, when you only look at one small side and you're not looking at the whole picture, then that is a bit of an issue. But when you look at the whole picture, you can see that we aren't all treated equally. We are segregated by race, by sex, our gender identity, our sexual orientation. It's all divisional. It all separates. And it's, when you look at it, you can see what the clear motives are. You really can. So just be aware of that, but also don't be, blaming everyone for actions that, are out of that control. But that's all I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully you found this interesting. Let me know. That bruschetta that I made yesterday that you saw in the video, oh my gosh, that was the best. That was the absolute best ever. Oh my goodness, it was so good. It made a ton, so I'm going to be having it for days. It was so amazing. Anyway, that's all. Run that race. Run that race. The rat race. Those two rats right over there. The rat race. So cute. Anyway, that's all. Take care. Bye-bye.